Going live now. You are live.
All right, good evening, everybody. We're gonna call this meeting to order, meeting of the Affordable Housing and Community Equity Development Commission, October 28th, 2021. We're gonna start with a roll call. Vice Chair Nancy Lipson.
Here.
Commissioner Terry Bond.
Here.
Commissioner Pat Sheridan.
Here.
Staff Liaison Teresa Wellman. And not present is our new Commissioner Elijah Herring Blaine, and hopefully he can join us next go around. We're really happy that he has now been added to our roster. We're looking forward to working with him. Next on the agenda is approval of the September meeting minutes. However, it occurred to me today that, that we don't have a copy of that. So since the final version of this September meeting minutes have not been distributed, we'll just hold off and we'll approve that at the next meeting along with the meeting minutes from this meeting. So, and really just, on our agenda is two primary topics tonight. And so the first one pertains to a topic that we discussed before, which relates to payment in lieu of taxes and a pilot policy. Starting with backing up a little bit. So you are aware, and thank you, Pat, for joining me for the October 18th presentation of our zoning recommendation to the Housing and Human Welfare Committee meeting. And, at that meeting, Pat and I presented our zoning recommendation, which really consists of three primary components: to create a new planned development per the Planned Development Code, which is a code that authorizes major site development in the city. A recommendation that the city adopt a missing middle housing policy, and then a recommendation that the city reduce both development and operating fees for affordable housing. And during that meeting, we talked at length about a pilot and payment in lieu of taxes. And so I wanted to follow up this evening on that recommendation and talk about that. In general, I think our zoning recommendation was very well received. We had a lot of great questions. I thought it was, pretty good discussion. Before launching into the sort of the pilot topic, is there any comments or follow-up discussion to that October 18th presentation? Yeah, it was pretty, pretty straightforward.
The only question I have is it's Dewan's committee, is that right?
Yeah, he's the chair.
He's
And so
the chair, and who else is on it?
Alderman Shandelmeyer and Alderman Tierney. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to be present at the meeting.
Nancy, I think it's our old committee. It's the Human Welfare. Department. So it's the same. I realized that when I saw it, that it's the same council people. It's just that now it's right. Am I right, Teresa? It's just the council people.
No, it always was a separate committee from the Housing and Community Development Committee. It was the Housing and Community Development Committee was made up of the Housing and Human Welfare Committee members and then other people. That's always been a separate standing committee.
But for a while we met together, although we really didn't. It was
really
confusing. Yeah, well, you did too. You probably don't remember. I think you did. I might be wrong, but
yeah, we sorry, the cat is gone. Excuse me.
The cat missed you.
Did. I was away last week. And so ever since I've been home, he's been like hovering. But Housing and Community the Housing and Human Welfare Committee has always been a standing committee of the council. And then what was your question again, Terry, about?
no, all I said is that the same.
Yeah, we did meet together.
We did, and the same council, the aldermen that were on our committee were also on that committee. So that I was just trying to.
Right.
I know that there was overlap.
Yeah.
Yeah, our committee was made up of them plus you guys.
Mhm. So, we really didn't talk, real specifically about next steps regarding our recommendation, but it's my understanding then that they're gonna take time to digest it and then, bring it forth to the full city council. But of course, with the election coming up, things are, a little bit in turmoil, so it's unclear what that timing will be. But I thought it was a good discussion, and I enjoyed being able to meet with them and talk it through.
Yeah, I thought it was really constructive also. Also, it was a good cross-link with the HACA discussions the other night too, and what's going on there. But I think like some of the proposals we made at the HACA meeting, the election is putting off, any hard decision making right now as much as anything. Just no one's too terribly focused on it. So,
Well, it'll all be over next week, so.
yeah.
Exactly. So, okay. So moving on to the pilots, and, again, this was part of our zoning recommendation. And so I think I'm happy that, we sort of timed it to take up the discussion tonight, because it's just a good segue and, keeping the ball moving, hopefully. So to sort of recap, what I think we know is that, any development that comes into the city is going to be paying both city and county taxes, assuming that they're an entity that pays taxes, which, as we all know, developments that are financed with low-income housing tax credits, which is the major source of financing for affordable housing development, are financed using for-profit entities, and so they do pay full taxes. And so any affordable housing development would be subject to both city and county. And so I think it makes sense for the city to sort of piggyback onto what the county does, and use a similar sort of process. And what we know about the county process is that they require a fixed payment, ranging anywhere of $100 to $300 per unit, depending on the underwritten pro forma. But basically, they require a fixed per unit payment that escalates annually 4% each year. And, as I understand it, the process as it works is a developer will, go to the county and say, I'm requesting a pilot, and submit a 20-year pro forma that shows that when the project is making full tax payment, it is not able to meet its financial requirements, both as lender and, if it's a tax credit property, then investor requirements. And so for that reason, they need a relief from having to pay full taxes. And from that point, it's a negotiation about what the project can afford, come up with an amount. And again, that escalates 4% annually, and determine, what the project is able to afford and what would be reasonable. And then every 5 years, the developer is required to submit audited financial statements from the previous 5 years and a 5-year projection going forward. And then an evaluation is made to determine whether or not the cumulative net, I'm reading here, the cumulative net cash from the operation of the project exceeds an 8% return. And if it does, then the county has the right to terminate the pilot. Now, Teresa, you've been involved in city pilots before, and I know you've worked with the county with their process in evaluating requests made to the city.
Yes and no. As far as the pilots in the city, typically people went to the, it was all handled by the finance department. I didn't have any involvement at all. So,
Okay.
sometimes they'd come through and this is the problem, is sometimes they go to the mayor, sometimes they go to city manager. There was no like, okay, you go see this person to start the process. So,
And so, yeah,
there's like a process. So I have not been involved in the only pilot that I was sort of involved in was the last pilot to town courts. And in that pilot, basically what happened when they got to the point of, I think it was right before closing, we had ACDS do an analysis to make sure that they actually needed the pilot. And then ACDS made the recommendation, and then it came back to the city. We only did that once. That was under Teresa Sutherland, and the developer had to pay for the analysis.
okay.
And then,
Because
if I'm not mistaken,
they weren't submitting to the city all the stuff that they had to submit to the county. They would just come in and ask for a pilot. They didn't present anything. We didn't, you know. So by them submitting all the stuff that you're talking about, there might be the need to have that analysis done again might be eliminated. But again, I don't know, because like I said, it didn't come through my office.
Okay.
so obviously, when we do a policy, we have to include in that policy an administration of the policy.
Yeah, some, you know,
Steps.
yeah, like who do they go
you
to?
file it
Yeah,
with, and all
right.
sorts of things.
Yeah, who you go to, what you submit.
Yeah.
Well, I guess just backing up and go ahead, Terry. I didn't
Well,
wanna
I'm
interrupt.
just curious because Kathy talked about, I thought, them creating a system because they didn't have a system, a process. But I thought what you said in your presentation was that they didn't make it in writing and official. It was like a policy. So I have two questions.
That's
One,
right.
is it different than what they did like when that development came through? Is it the same process or different? And if they're going to pay both taxes and they're going to go to pilot for both of us, then it seems to make sense it'd be one system we work on with the county, right?
Right. And actually, that's why I was asking Teresa about what your experience was relative to this, because I guess it had been my understanding that this is my understanding. This is just my personal understanding. I don't have anything in writing from the county about what process they follow. So again, this is research that I've gleaned together and from personal experience, working through the city with the county. But certainly the county likes to know, the county, I would assume that the county prefers that the city also provide a pilot, and the city's going to prefer that the county provides. I mean, they're not going to, they're going to want, I think they should work hand in hand is what I'm trying to say.
So that's a fundamental question I got. So one can give a pilot, the other would not give a pilot. So the actual property would be full taxes, say, to the city and not to the county.
I know it's
possible. Typically, we would give a pilot. It's been my experience that every tax credit project that's come through the city's gotten a pilot. That asked for a pilot. I mean, there's been some that didn't need a pilot because they were like Section 8, and they didn't really need the pilot. But
do we know if they got the pilot from the county too?
I'm not sure about the last one. I remember, believe it or not, before town courts was Admiral Oaks. I wasn't involved in the Homes at the Glen pilot. Like I said, all this takes place in the finance department and the Office of Law. So,
can I make a suggestion? We talk to somebody there they might better understand who's got. It would be nice to know who got city pilots. Maybe who got.
I can tell you who got them. I can tell you
like how it worked together. Just to better understand, I guess.
There wouldn't be anybody there that could tell you that because it's not the same people.
But wouldn't they have records? Wouldn't they have files?
Well, you could just go on the, you can go on the land records and find, find some of this stuff. And yeah, we do. I mean, I have a list of someplace in my office of all the pilots that we've given. There haven't been really that many.
But you're not doing this 5-year evaluation piece, right? The city's not doing the 5-year, to your knowledge.
No, not that I know of. I don't think they required any kind of analysis until this last year with town courts, when Teresa Sutherland said we need to have an analysis. But to my knowledge, there was never any kind of analysis done. But again, I don't know. And the people that work in the finance office now are different people than worked in it when all the other pilots came through. So, which was my point.
Well, it seemed to me that
we don't have a process.
It would seem to me that once we do develop it, that the city and the county only do one analysis.
That's what I'm
and
thinking.
Determine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, one analysis, the share of the tax of each property. If each entity would determine what portion of the total pilot would be attributable to the county and would be attributable to the city. So it's one analysis.
It'd make things so much easier, it would seem like, for everybody from the landowner to the city and the county.
Yeah, and
right. And you don't need to reinvent the wheel every time something happens.
And so
Kathy is really good at having analyses, lots of paperwork, lots of analyses. That is her strong suit. I don't know who's going to replace her, but I don't know whether all those processes will continue, but.
And then she, on the last, like I said, the last pilot, the city required that an analysis be done and that ACDS do it, and that the developer pay Kathy
to do it.
Well, it seemed like we could just get an MOU with the county or something or other to kind of formalize that process, but.
Right. Especially since the county doesn't actually have a written process at this point.
Right.
Maybe we get an MOU with the county.
Right.
The city and county jointly develop the process and the relationship. And then go forward from there. I have a vague recollection that the year I worked at ACDS and worked on a pilot, the last step for the awarding of the pilot was a council resolution, I believe.
Yeah, it is. I think ours is an ordinance.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's an ordinance. Yeah.
So we'll have to get all those things together, but
yeah.
Remember that the council did something.
Yeah, no, the council definitely does. There's definitely an ordinance.
So I guess my question is there ever a time where a developer gets a pilot from the city but doesn't get one from the county? Which means the city's taking the hit.
I don't think so.
Okay, well but that's another question I'd have. I mean, it needs to be shared. It's a value to both, so it needs to be shared.
Yeah.
I like the idea of developing this jointly with the county. I do think that makes a ton of sense. And again, my experience with this is that, Teresa, when we went through this with Homes at the Glen, second round, Kathy Koch did do the initial analysis and, provided the template for the pilot agreement to the city. And, so there was definitely a lot of joint work, but
it's costly though, isn't it?
Yeah. And I don't know that it was really just spelled out in like a, really streamlined fashion. Kathy Koch sort of made it work, her leadership made it work. So I think that this now's a good time to kind of talk this through and really nail
Yeah.
down a good process with the county.
Particularly since she's retiring.
Yeah,
Right,
I
exactly.
mean,
She, like, we need something in writing.
yeah. Right. So when we had talked about this before, Pat, I think it was you had made the comment about needing a defined term or some type of termination date. Am I misremembering it, or did you?
No, he did say that.
Be more from the same as being, coterminous with a tax credit.
Affordability restriction,
I
right?
I think that's said,
Yeah.
but I think that's what you said, but if we adopt all of what the county has been doing,
Right, that wouldn't be.
there is a built-in termination if certain milestones are reached. So,
Right.
as opposed to just time.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the concept of being the same as a tax credit period, and because someone's going to likely try to do a refinance at that point anyway. You're 16 or
Right.
17, and they may as well come back in for a new pilot at that point in time. So
I can tell you that the only little glitch with that, which I know very well from personal experience, is tax credit lease purchase. So
yeah,
those affordable, at least in my experience, affordability restriction was 15 years, thinking that the homes could then be sold and the restrictions would be released. But if it takes longer than 15 years to sell the home, the developer still owns that home that's rent restricted, yet now the pilot's expired. So that's just something to think about. We don't have to solve that tonight, but I do think tying it to affordability restriction makes sense, except when it comes to lease purchase, trying to figure out something. And maybe it's for as long as the unit is income restricted,
Yeah.
however long it takes to sell the house. So
it's not going to come up too often, except for
No.
but otherwise,
I think
I mean,
so many.
could be some process for renewing it if it were a lease purchase, say year 15 or something like that.
Right. Yeah. So, okay. So what do we think about next steps on this?
Meet with the county?
Yeah.
Or does there need to be a discussion internally with the city to propose that it be a joint county city?
Yeah, I think that's
Oh,
probably
absolutely.
a first step.
No.
And that would be after the
We would
election.
meet with the finance office
Yeah.
and the
Please
law
get your-
department.
Well, we'd have to meet with the city man. We'd have to start with the city manager. City manager oversees the finance department, so.
For both of them.
Yeah, so we'd have to meet with at least with the city manager and the
Makes-
finance department.
And I have a quick, since Kathy is retiring, and she was the key to a lot of the discussions, I guess, the previous pilots. Should we try and have some kind of conversation with her before she leaves the county?
Kind of a data dump.
Yeah, and maybe
Sure.
get some ideas from her, I don't know.
Oh.
Get feedback before she leaves. I don't
Yeah.
know if she's leaving. I would assume the end of the year.
I know that when over the years, I've always been concerned that so much was in her office that how was anybody going to come in and
Right.
over, because she never relinquished control of anything. So
Well, I think if Kathy can carve out some time with us, that's a big if. I'm sure she's very, very
Yeah.
busy. That would be great. But just to kind of understand from her all that she knows about it. And then, so then I guess, but really, until we can approach the county in a formal way, we really need to make sure that the city is willing to consider doing this. And I mean, I think it makes a ton of sense. It's just very, again, for the county to provide the pilot, but the city not to, just.
I'm gonna have to put them out.
Unless the gap's not that big. I mean, that's the only thing I could think of,
Yeah, but then shouldn't they be sharing,
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it makes sense to me. I mean, if you're the developer owner, you don't really want to have two separate processes either, as far as the evaluation. As time goes on and the cash flow is reviewed, but.
right? And it could be that the county may, not want to have total administrative responsibility for it either, and the city would have to, step up. I don't know. Won't know till we talk to them and flesh it out. But
Do you think it would be better to actually talk to her successor?
yeah, that's true. And they have not yet identified.
I actually think we
my
should talk
knowledge.
to both. I think we should talk to both.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to talk to the assessor, but
We need to brain dump.
Yeah,
Yeah, we need to find out for Kathy, and then also whoever the staff, she must have had at least one staff person who did do some work for her on it.
Somebody must have done the analysis, because I know Kathy didn't do it.
Yeah,
And staff do it, so.
right.
okay, very good. I'll see if I can do that. I mean, it would, in a perfect world, it'd be great for her to attend our November meeting, but
I've
I don't know.
not had very much luck in
Yeah.
that area.
Okay, let's see what inroads we can make there. I think that's good. I mean, I think that if, we can really move this along, that would go a long ways towards, again, just providing more certainty for developers coming in.
Right, exactly. You don't want developers to think there's some surprise coming in year 5 or year 10 or whatever. They're not going to want to participate.
Right. Okay. Good. Thank you for that conversation. So the second item on our agenda has to do with the American Rescue Plan Act funds, otherwise known as ARPA. And so we have a PowerPoint to share with that. And so what I was planning to do was to screen share the PowerPoint, but then ask Pat if he could, sort of talk through the PowerPoint. He was fortunate enough to be participate in a presentation on this material. So it'd be interesting just to hear from you, Pat, what you may have learned when you were listening in. So hold on while I try and screen share here. See if I can make this happen. Wait a minute.
Was it Michael Badakin who did the
That's who did it.
presentation?
Yeah.
Hmm?
That's who did
Is
it.
that who the, okay, all right.
Bear with me, Julian. I might need your help here.
I wonder, could I even do it from my end?
It should be just a green button at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, no, I see it. I don't see it on my computer. I have it saved to my device on my computer.
Is it open?
No.
You should open it.
Okay. Thank you. That's what I'm doing wrong then. Okay. See, I knew that I would need you, Julian. Thank you. Thank you for being there.
There we go.
Got it.
They put it in slideshow mode. All right.
Like you're a pro.
Look at that. All right, Pat, I'll advance the screen as you tell me to.
All right, well, I'll do my best to channel Michael Badakin.
Good luck with that, right?
Really. All right. Yeah, so, I mean, this was pretty interesting when we heard about it, because I wasn't aware of it. It didn't sound like it was part of the coronavirus rescue packages either. As sort of a separate one. So anyway, this American Rescue Plan, which the first funds have actually already been distributed, and the second tranche money coming soon, or next year anyway, can potentially do 4 major purposes that assist housing. First is emergency rental assistance, which is really not any different than what's already out there right now. The second is a homeowners assistance fund, which I don't know if there's anything like that out there yet, unless it's been, put out by municipalities. With that first tranche of money that they got last spring. Emergency housing vouchers, which would be a great assistance, I think, particularly with, trying to help people that are homeless currently, and then also just more money under the home program. So I think all 4 of those give not just us, but all municipalities quite a bit of flexibility as to what they can do with the money. Go ahead, switch it. Like I said, it was not as well known as a source of housing investment, and it's a heck of a lot of money at $350 billion. Treasury on May 11th, this was a really major announcement, made clear that affordable housing is eligible for part of the money. The thing is obviously that, affordable housing is not going to get a huge chunk of the 350 billion, but obviously if it got even 10% of it, that'd be 35 billion, which is probably about 10 years worth of HUD funding, in normal times. Go ahead and change. So the money is coming from the Treasury Department. It's not coming from HUD in this case. It's intended to support COVID-19 response efforts, mainly from the concept that it's replacing lost revenue, supporting economic stabilization. And it can be used for any of these broad purposes kind of listed in the bullets. A key, though, is that it must be spent by 2024. So there's a deadline coming up, which is actually a good thing because it's going to push people to try to figure out ways to spend this. And, if there's organizations that can, make a claim on the money that would help these municipalities spend it, that's actually a good thing. What you see there as number 2 is really the piece that probably is most relevant to the housing sector anyway, and that's the helping correct negative economic impacts. Change, so anyway, the Treasury guidance that came out back in May said that you could use it for these purposes listed in the bullets. Certainly rent and mortgage assistance, home repair, which I don't know that there's too many of the regular COVID relief funds that are being used for that purpose. Development of affordable housing, which again is key. That's both new construction and preservation. And then housing vouchers and assistance to try to relocate persons to neighborhoods with higher levels of economic opportunity. I think goes to a lot of the issues related to fair housing and how to create more economic opportunities for those in need. And then also supportive housing services for those that are homeless, meaning more permanent supportive housing, but also the services needed to provide them with support. Go ahead. This one is, it sounds like it might be a big issue, but according to Michael, it's not. So if you're investing in a qualified census tract, it already meets this situation. But if it's not in a QCT, then if you can provide data that shows that the funding is actually going to go to minorities and low-income households disproportionately impacted by COVID, then it meets those qualifications. So at least in Michael's mind, this is not a very high bar for a community to have to meet to qualify for the funds.
And that's an important point because the city is not in a QCT. So
Right.
you need to do the second bullet. And that was an important clarification. I think when that guidance was released in May, that's where everybody said, okay, this is great, but it can only be used in a QCT. And then this clarification now is.
Yeah, yeah. The
made.
line that starts with hence is the one we'd have to key on. This is a listing of what different communities, states, et cetera, are already doing as far as trying to use some of these funds. And you can see it's, a huge variety of different things that they're doing with it. Certainly in the city of Annapolis, we could do more probably on permanent supportive housing, or, certainly on the preservation angle and how could we, make more of the market rate housing that's in the city potentially affordable if, it came up for sale, things along those lines. But also it could be, you put money into a housing trust fund like DC is doing. It could be a fund to help homeowners build ADUs on their properties. There's all kinds of different possibilities for using this money. And I think that, I don't know if it falls on us to be the creative ones that come up with the ideas and tell the council, but I think it's a tremendous opportunity to be able to use the money for, several different purposes within the city. The money is distributed based on population. Everybody gets a separate amount. This was information that Michael put together, and there are some websites that you can actually go to that will tell you how much money each county or state or municipality gets, which I checked, and the city of Annapolis supposedly is to get 7.6 million altogether. So that would be specifically under the control of the city, not county, state, or other jurisdiction. I don't know, maybe Teresa knows whether, the city's actually received any of these monies yet or not.
No, I haven't. No, and I haven't heard anything from the mayor's office or anybody about this.
Well, my understanding was they've received all the municipalities, all these have received half. And Teresa, my understanding was that the city has used it to fill budget gaps.
Oh, they didn't. Oh, okay. Well, then that's why I don't know about it.
2022
They
budget.
appropriated it.
Yeah, right. But I mean, it's still, it's my mind, it's still there and available.
Yeah, there's another slide coming up that shows when the other money is going to be distributed, but I think you're completely right about that, the first tranche of money, the cities were looking to where they had holes that they wanted to fill or something immediate. This next one's actually not going to come out until May, so there's an opportunity there to try to get something in front of them to say, this is important, let's set aside some money. But again, this slide is more examples of what different cities and states have done so far. Which is actually, here's the second bullet there. Second tranche is May 2022.
Right.
That's it.
So I guess the question is, for me, knowing this money's out there and the city's already determining how they're going to spend it, how do we get in on that conversation?
That's right.
We need the city needs a strategy for using the monies for those different areas. Do they have one? I mean, I guess it's scary.
No, not that, I mean, if they do, I don't know about it.
But we should ask them for it.
Right.
Get ahead of it and put that request in now before the powers that be make all that decisions, and then we're left out, I mean,
Well, I think it's going to be better if it comes from the committee.
So
Right.
7.6 million is, that's a lot of money, right? So, if you
I guess probably at this point is 3.7 or whatever.
Yeah, but in total, it's going to be 7.6 million. So, percentages, 25% of that is 1.9 million. Even 10% is 760,000. you know,
I mean-
there's the possibility, I mean, there really is just a huge opportunity that if we even had, you know, if the city were able to dedicate just even a portion of the 7.6 million for affordable housing, it would really go a long way.
Well, it could go into the trust fund because that's what the trust fund, the
Yeah,
Affordable Housing Trust Fund's for. So they could easily put it in the trust fund. You know, we've got the Housing Authority coming up with the redevelopment. You know, it could easily, I mean, that's going to need a lot of money.
Put my hat on and just say, we just need it for repairs.
we'll take it all.
Yeah, exactly. But
Man,
no, there's plenty of, there's plenty of use for the money.
It could also fund, I was gonna say, it could fund, you know, home ownership, mortgage write-downs and settlement cost
Right,
assistance
right.
for home ownership. You could divvy it up, some for home ownership, or if you
We
used
could
it
do
for rental development, it could be a soft loan that could be repaid potentially.
right. We could
Right.
use it to write down some of the cost of the MPDUs that are coming up for
Right.
people that are below
You know,
100%. I mean, there's lots
and
of
for
stuff.
any of the development projects that are not this year, but in prior years that were oversubscribed, like the home repairs and those
Right.
kinds of
And
things.
and that is in the trust fund. The trust fund allows us to use the money for home repairs. So
Mhm.
Yeah, one of the strategies on this money might be just to get the money and get it into the trust fund and then decide.
yeah,
And then
because the
decide how-
trust fund, the way the trust fund works is you can use it for a number of things, including match for housing programs. You can use it for, you know, affordable housing, match for affordable housing programs. You can use it as settlement expense help. You can use it to fix up houses. You know, I mean, you can use it to construct houses. You can use it for acquisition. You know, I mean, it's pretty much, you could pretty much do use it for pretty much all housing stuff. So
So I guess really we just need to get our voice out that a portion of this funding should be used for affordable housing.
right, and it should go in the trust fund.
You know,
So
one
maybe
thing,
what we,
I was just gonna say, one thing that I thought about too, and I don't know how it would be used, but we've been talking a lot about missing middle housing, right? And facilitating duplexes and triplexes proper. You know, could somehow the funds be used to facilitate that kind of development in the city? I mean, that really would go hand in hand with
kind of
the
as a
goals-
pilot
right?
pilot program to implement our recommendations
Right.
that the council has already tasked us with.
Mhm.
Yeah, there you go.
The city has already tasked us with doing. You know, they
Right.
said, do this. So there's money. We'd like to use this money to develop a pilot program to develop missing middle housing.
Like,
And that kind of goes back to
It seems to me the first thing to do,
Spa
the
Road.
first thing to do is for us to write a letter to the council
mhm.
or to the mayor or to the city manager or whoever.
All of them,
Say-
all of them.
Yeah.
Well,
saying-
what I like about the idea, when I think about facilitating missing middle housing, I guess what I'm brainstorming here. You know, I think about providing financing to someone who wants to develop that kind of housing that can be income restricted, or that would be income restricted. And
Right.
then presumably that financing would be repaid to the city over time, right?
A
And so
revolving loan
developing
fund.
a loan fund for missing
Yeah.
middle housing.
Yeah, you know,
I think that'd be a great idea.
Mhm.
And, you know, I'd like to, when we think about this, to think about this in conjunction with the goals of the comprehensive plan, you know, that is, you know, in progress. So that, you know, we're all working together, but Nancy, I completely agree also that, you know, to say, okay, here was our recommendation, and now we want the funds to be able to support this recommendation. And by the way, this underlies and supports the goals of the comprehensive plan.
Right.
It all
Exactly.
comes together.
Exactly.
And the question
Yeah.
is, how much should we ask for?
So you
Half
said
would be
so
good.
it's 3 point, yeah, maybe half what,
7.6. 7.6 million.
Yeah, but half of it's already gone, right?
Well, you know, and that's really a question for the finance committee. You know, Ross Arnett is the chair of the finance committee. I don't know that it's gone. I think that it's been designated to fill a budget gap. Right.
Okay.
But I think that's really a question for him. But
so if we went in the finance committee notes, if we listen to their meetings, would we find all this information out? I wonder if
Well, all of the minutes are supposed to be, you know, on the
Online?
city.
and
yeah,
we can have you know, Alderman Arnett come talk to us.
that would be good. That would be
yeah.
good.
If he'd be willing to do that. I have shared this PowerPoint with him.
There's
And I also share the PowerPoint with Alderman Gay,
who's
chair of the Housing and
Right.
Human Welfare Committee. So,
it's my understanding that most of it is gone.
okay,
I
we
would
can-
guess so.
So we just need to make sure the rest doesn't go without us getting a percentage.
Yeah, raising our voices.
And you know,
Otherwise, you're just pushing paper.
the other comment to make too is that you know, I am aware that Maryland Affordable Housing Coalition is advocating, you know, very strongly for the state to designate, you know, funds specific for affordable housing development. And the Anne Arundel County Affordable Housing Coalition is advocating at the county level. You saw the county has 112 million for the county to designate a portion of the funds for affordable housing. And so, you know, assuming that both those things happen, which I would love to think that they might, you know, for the city then to follow suit and, you know, really be a party to this effort that's happening at the state and the county and, you know, now the city level. I mean, it makes perfect sense.
So what do we need to do first?
Can I just say something here? Alderman Gay has been texting me.
Okay.
Basically what he said was that the 7.6 million is it's gone and there's barely $1 million left.
Oh, well,
We'll take it.
Okay, sold.
Take the $1 million, right.
All right. Well, I think first things first, we need to clarify, you know, exactly, you know, what is available, but you know, certainly then follow up on making a request. And Teresa, you're saying that the Housing Trust Fund is very flexible.
Oh yeah,
And
there's it's extremely.
So it makes
flexible.
perfect sense then just to you know, provide those funds into the trust funds, and then we can, you know, figure out specific uses or recommend specific uses at a later point.
Right, there's about 10 uses in the city code for the trust fund. So and I'll send you a copy of just that section tomorrow.
Carrie.
So
Yes.
I wanted to say, and maybe I'm mincing words, but when you said how much is available, we know half is coming in May. I think we should just say a percentage of that needs to be used in line with our mission. That's our mission to do that. And so I think instead of asking what's left for this, that we should strongly suggest, demand, whatever we want to use, recommend that a percentage of that be used for affordable housing.
I mean, particularly because there's a comprehensive plan, there's the Affordable Housing Task Force, all this stuff is coming right at the right time to make this request.
Right. And there's not much money out there for the affordable housing. That's why it's so important, you know?
Yeah.
This is really great.
Great. Well, we will definitely do our part to make the case.
Right, and if you'd like me, Kathy, I'll talk to you tomorrow, but if, you know, I could go ahead and just write an email to the city manager and ask about this.
Okay.
that'd be good to get a sort of status.
Yeah.
That he understands it.
Tell them the committee's very concerned.
The committee has creative, good ideas.
Just need a little money.
It's so exciting.
Okay. Anything else? So our next meeting would have normally fallen on Thanksgiving. So Teresa has moved that now to November 18th. I want to make sure you guys have that on your calendar.
Right.
And that's a public hearing.
That's a public hearing that you're not expecting. We're going to have gobs and gobs of people.
So far, I've gotten one request,
Okay, good.
testimony.
This is for the CDBG. This is for the needs in the city.
Seeds. Right.
Yeah. Okay. And how did you advertise that?
It went out to everybody that got notification of the block grant application.
Okay.
There was a legal ad in the paper, and it's posted on our website.
Okay. And then,
That's the 18th.
yeah, November 18th. And we'll, figure out sort of an agenda between now and then, although it's only 3 weeks away, so it's not bad.
Well, maybe we could do some follow-up on what we've talked about and report
Yeah.
back on that. Like if you get a chance to talk to Kathy Koch about the pilot
Mhm.
information, and I get a chance to talk to the city manager about the American Rescue Plan money.
Okay.
We can kind of report back on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I won't have the CDBG applications until December, so I really won't be able to tell you like what's come in.
Okay.
And
And we're not meeting in December, right? That's what we decided.
right. And also I will be sending you a copy of the annual performance report for CDBG. Probably really soon, because that's something that I have to review at the meeting as part of the public hearing. We have to talk about the progress that we made and what we did and how we met our goals. So I'll be doing that portion of it.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Anybody have anything else before we sign off?
I have a question. Should we talk about the land use plan at all? If we see something on it, or is that like not public yet?
No, you mean the link that I
It's on-
emailed to you? Yeah, I received that from the planning office.
Yeah, so I guess it just, and you guys can slap me around if you want, but it rose a concern to me that one of the major apartment complexes that still provides a lot of affordable housing is, and that's the Watergate Apartments, is designated for mixed use.
I did not see that.
I thought I saw that. I thought, and that's a large chunk of land. And I know a lot of people that live there that are real worried about losing their housing. So I checked the map. I could have seen it wrong, but I just thought that was I didn't see that as mixed use, and I hope I'm wrong, and that's a large, so anyway, which would make me believe there's interest in redeveloping it, which I'm not surprised, but
Yeah.
that does such a big piece of affordable housing now, it's scary, so.
But it's market rate, so
Yeah.
it's market rate housing.
But because of the kind of housing that it is, it turns out to be affordable for many in Annapolis, that's all.
NOAA housing.
Yeah. Older housing is less expensive. So I just know, and a lot of families have started out there and then moved up. I knew it was too good to be true to last for too long, but I guess the mixed use designation would tend to make me believe it's slated for redevelopment, which.
Well, and I didn't really get a chance to study that too closely.
And I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I misread it.
So I was, but at first glance, what little bit I did see of it, at first glance, there was more mixed use designations than I had expected there to be.
Mm.
And I mean, I think it'd be interesting to understand from Eric, what was the criteria he used in selecting those designations? Because when we had talked to him before, I thought that there was a discussion that there would be different kinds of mixed use designations. There'd be different priorities, right? There would be like a housing priority mixed use, and there would be an office priority mixed use. Does that ring a bell with you all, or am I imagining?
I thought at some point they said it got too complicated and they decided, and I might be, that they changed that. I thought I remember hearing that, or they were thinking about it, I thought, so, yeah. Or maybe there is underlying some more details that we're missing, so. But I just went with the colors on the map.
Yeah, but it's a nifty visual though, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Although it's hard to tell the difference, unless you get down deep, between mixed use and commercial, because the orange and the
Colors.
are very similar. Yeah.
Well, that'll be something too that we can talk about in November, once we have a chance to, look at that a little more closely.
That'd be great.
And then there's the question of whether Sally Nash is leaving, will change anything.
Mhm.
That'll be
Transition
interesting, too.
is always,
It's always hard.
disruptive, right? So
What do you want, Murphy?
between the cat and the dog.
The dog.
I know. I locked mine out. He's in the,
Yeah, I can't lock him out.
All right. Anything else? Otherwise, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Move.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Sounds good. And we will talk to you then in just a few short weeks. And we'll be in touch
And I'll-
about the agenda and figuring out, how that next meeting is going to go.
All right.